Hey home bakers, it's Jack here, bakewithjack.co.uk, bringing you your weekly bread making tip every single Thursday. And this week, how to make soft rolls that are actually soft. Roll it! Hey you guys, and welcome back to the... Wait a minute. No. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where I share with you a little bit of my bread making expertise to help you make amazing bread at home. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, you'll know exactly what I'm going to say next. Have a think about it if this is your cup of tea. Now, a lot of people ask me stuff like, how do you keep your baguettes really crusty? How do you make a nice thick crust on the outside of a sourdough? But the other day somebody asked me, how do you keep soft rolls soft? How do you make soft rolls that are actually soft? And yes, there is a skill involved in that, and there's different things we can do along the bread making process all the way through to the storage to help make them soft. Soft rolls have their place, stuff like picnics, burgers, that sort of thing requires soft rolls like this one here. Here's one I made yesterday, nice and soft and squishy and beautiful. And yeah, I'm really pleased with this. Before we get too deep into this video, what I will say is that don't expect your rolls to be as soft and fluffy as the ones you buy in the supermarket. The ones that we make at home are not full of artificial additives and improvers, and so they will be a little bit firmer and a little touch heavier than the ones that you buy. So let's talk about the recipe. Right at the beginning of your bread making process, you can introduce a little bit of fat into your recipe. I'm talking about butter or olive oil. These two things, even other oils for example, will help to keep your dough nice and silky, and so your bread nice and soft. Also, you get a little bit of additional keeping quality after. And the way I see it is that these fats do not evaporate over time, and so they keep your dough moist and soft for longer. The recipe I used to make this, I introduced about 20 grams of olive oil per half kilo of flour, and I'll put the quantities in the description underneath. That's just enough to keep it nice and soft, and if it was butter, I'd probably go around 25 grams to start off with. In theory, the more butter, the more oil, the more fat that you put in, the softer it'll be for longer. For example, brioche has a ton of butter in it, almost literally a ton of butter in it, and that's what keeps it super light and super soft and super bouncy. I stuck to around about 65% hydration for these rolls, so they kept a nice shape. If you go too far, in theory, yes, more water will keep your dough softer and moister, but you don't want to lose that nice round dome shape when you bake it. At the end of the video, I'll talk about a few things, a few ingredients you can try that will help you out and keep it softer for longer. So knead and rest your dough as normal, and then after that, as you're shaping them up into balls for your rolls, which I did another video on before, try, one thing that I like to do is put them quite close together. If you see here, there's a couple of little bits here. This was the outside one, right? Let me find another one, hold on. Now I deliberately placed these rolls a couple of fingers apart on the tray so they would join one another as they proved up, right? They join up like this as an example, right? They'll join up like that as they are proving up and baking together. Then when you tear it open, you get that wicked super soft bit in there as a little added bonus. When it comes to the baking, don't bake them for too long. Let me tell you what I did, and we'll do a little comparison with a baguette, for example, which we want to be super crusty. I baked my rolls, I did 8 on a tray, all joined up one another for about 17 minutes. I started it off on 12, and then I went to about 17 to get a nice colour on the outside. I did use steam, but not in the same way as you would do for a baguette. The oven was set to 180 degrees C, that's 356 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 5, which is about average temperature, so it didn't get too crusty. We use the steam, one, for a nice colour, and also to let the buns expand as much as possible before that crust then dries and sets on the outside. Let's compare that to a baguette, because a baguette you would cook on a really high temperature for as long as possible, and in that scenario you'd use the steam, one, for a nice colour, the same, two, to allow it to puff up to its maximum, this exactly the same as with buns, but also to enable you to bake on a higher temperature as possible for as long as possible without nothing burning. That's how you get the crust. So for a soft roll we still use steam, but not for the same purpose, and we bake on a lower temperature. After you are done baking, take your rolls out and let them cool on a wire rack. What I sometimes do in this scenario, to keep them soft if I need to, is put a clean cloth over the top as they're cooling. That clean cloth, in my mind, catches part of the steam that rises up to keeping the outside soft and stopping it from going hard. One thing to note is not to use a tea towel that you've washed with a fragranced laundry liquid or powder, because it will transfer that soapy flavour into your bread, which is really not nice at all. Keep a couple of cloths separate that you do not wash with that soapy fragrance and use that to cover your bread with. This, in my mind, is the same principle as when you have floured baps. When you buy floured baps, they're floured on the top and they stay soft. A little bit of flour in the top, in my head, as they are cooling, keeps a little bit of that moisture in, just traps a little bit of that like insulation, keeps that moisture in a little bit to stop it from evaporating too much. When your bread has cooled completely, store them in a plastic bag like this. Recognise this, fella? Keep them in a bag like this. I don't normally use plastic, especially for stuff like baguettes or sourdough, but for keeping soft things soft, use a plastic bag. It will keep everything in there really nicely. And if you can, keep them all joined up. I know I didn't, but if you keep them joined up, then you rip it open, there's less surface area for that moisture to escape from. In a bag like that, they should keep nice and soft for a couple of days. There you go, I hope that helps out. A couple of things to note in terms of ingredients. A few things for you to try are milk. Milk contains fat, bringing softness and also milkiness to the dough. Try cooked mashed potato. Mashed potato brings bounce, a real nice potato-y background element. Doesn't taste like potato, but can help keep your bread softer for longer. And something I tried the other day in a vegan donut recipe that completely blew my mind to pieces was cooked apple puree. Cooked apple puree in a donut recipe brings unbelievable softness. I haven't tried it in a roll like this, but it's definitely worth a go. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching my video this week. It's lovely to have you here every single Thursday. If this has helped you out, and I hope that it has, please click that thumbs up button. Please click the subscribe. You know what I'm going to say if you haven't clicked it already. I look forward to seeing you here next week for another bread making tip. Bye-bye. Hey you guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll pop the recipe for the rolls that I made in this video in the comments box underneath. Don't forget, if you're making bread at home, post it out on Instagram using the hashtag BakeWithJack and I will see it. And if you need cloths or aprons or other bread making bits and bobs, you can find it all at the Bake with Jack shop. bakewithjack.co.uk/shop, shipping worldwide. See you next week.